In Kawasaki's early years, their bikes were lightweight and powerful. From the beginning, they used a unique engine design, the Rotary Valve engine. Now, the Rotary Valve engine was nothing new, and as a matter of fact, many manufacturers used it in their early bikes when they brought them over for the US market. But many of them would switch to a more conventional piston port or reed valve two-stroke engine configuration and abandon the rotary valve. But not Kawasaki. They developed it and used it on many of their bikes, almost every bike in the lineup, from their inception clear to 2001. Now, what is a rotary valve engine and why go into all the detail? Well, I have a website. You can click the link. It'll tell you everything you need to know. But the focus of this video is, when you look at Kawasaki's lineup all through the years, there's one bike that kind of stands out for one reason or another. It's the F11, the only piston port bike in Kawasaki's early years, excluding the triples. However, early development documents show that even those bikes, they were trying to make those a rotary valve 3-cylinder. But of course it didn't happen because of complexity. So let's take a look at the F11's history, some of the bikes it spawned, some of the competition it was up against again, and see how it stacked up. I think you'll be surprised at some of the things we find out about this bike. It's an interesting story about a bike that is often overlooked by collectors, even Kawasaki enthusiasts. Our story begins back in the mid-60s, 1968 to be exact. In not less than about 4 years in the US market, Kawasaki and other manufacturers were rapidly expanding their offerings from very small displacement bikes to ever larger single-cylinder models. Yamaha would really shake things up in the new and emerging 250cc segment. In those days, 250cc's was on the cusp of being considered a big bore class bike. 1968 would be the release of the very popular and performance-focused DT1 dual-purpose bike. In those days, dual sport bikes were colloquially known as enduro bikes. At the time, Kawasaki did not have a true competitive bike in this segment. They did have the off-road only 238cc F21M, geared more towards TT and scrambler type races. Kawasaki would take a version of that 238cc single-cylinder engine and frame, add some lights to create the F4 Sidewinder, but it would fail to capture the popular DT1, which by this time could be outfitted with exclusive OEM hop-up parts to make it even more appealing. Kawasaki would meet this by upping the ante with the 350cc F5 Bighorn with optional OEM Power Pack, also known as the Speed Kit in dealer manuals. This still left Kawasaki without a competitive 250cc offering. Finally, it's 1972 and Kawasaki was tired of playing second fiddle to Yamaha and was going to flip the script on the 250cc class, flipping the script by abandoning the rotary valve for a piston port design. The F11 was released in late '72. For a short time, the F8 would have been sold right along the F11. Traditionally, Kawasaki would borrow complete engine and frames and make changes or modifications to create new models. In the case of the F11, everything was all new. Specifications for the F11 are follows: 22 horsepower at 6,500 RPM, 18.8 foot-pounds of torque at 6,000 RPM, 264 pounds dry, 284 pounds wet, 21-inch front wheel, and an 18-inch rear wheel. Some notable features: a narrow engine profile, aluminum shoulderless rims, a full floating rear brake, plastic fenders, and a unique gear change mechanism to prevent overshifting. Now, how did all this stack up to the other Japanese offerings? Here are the specs for the competition in this segment. As you can see, the Japanese bikes in this class compare very closely to each other on paper. As you see, the Kawasaki comes in on the lighter end of the spectrum. But how does this translate into real-world performance? This helps it make up a bit of deficit on the power and torque, making it feel and ride faster than it is. The F11 may not have been a breakout bike when it hit the scene, but it did cause the competition to rethink and do some updates to their aging designs. The F11 rode light for the class and for the time. Its smooth and easy power translated to a nice linear feel. It made it a good choice for a serious recreational rider wanting a bike that would not fatigue them out on long rides. This, however, didn't win over the performance-minded crowd. But little would anyone know the bike would spawn one of Kawasaki's most rare early motocross bikes, the F11M. So rare, enthusiasts don't even know truly exactly how many were made and what the bike sold for when it was new. What we do know from a select few documented bikes it was clearly a lightweight, potent machine aimed squarely at getting Kawasaki into the booming American motocross market. Only available for 1 year, this bike was a springboard to the first KX250. Now, truth be told, the F11 Enduro and the F11M share very little in common, other than a small percentage of part numbers for internal engine parts. But I like to think the F11 soldiered on in the dealerships, selling well, and in a small way funding the beginning development of the early years of the successful KX line. In conclusion, the F11 would sell from 1972 through 1975 and be superseded by the KE250 and the 4-stroke KL250. So if you see an F11 in the wild, don't just pass it up as another lame trail bike. For those 3 years, Kawasaki got out of their rotary valve comfort zone and created a really well thought out machine. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you didn't, I know you'll let me know. I have a bunch of other motorcycle restoration videos on my channel, so go check those out. Subscribe as I have more like this coming. I'll see you next time, and take care.